Sai Ram. I offer my most prayerful and humble and grateful pranams at the feet of my most beloved and dearest Sadguru, Bhagawan Sri Satya Sai Baba. My dear sisters, brothers, this is such a wonderful opportunity to be here in your midst, to be able to share my faith, my inspirations, the lessons I learned at the lotus feet of my beloved Swami. I'm not here, like I said yesterday, to convince you about his divinity or to convert you into being a Sai devotee. I'm merely here to share what I believe, how his teachings has helped me in his life and teachings have helped me in my spiritual progress. And it is with that enthusiasm, with that earnestness, with that humility that I stand before you to speak from my heart to your heart. And I pray from the depths of my heart that Baba guides me and allows this satsang to be one that will help us experience higher dimensions of life, higher paths to life, higher purposes to life. Having spent 15 odd years with Swami, I always have a problem beginning. And once I begin, I have a problem stopping. But I have a big clock there, so hopefully I know when to stop. Up until the last minute, I said, Swami, give me an idea to start, and he didn't. But here I am with the mic. One of my favorite, and this is going to be the theme this morning at least, because we have the overall theme, Think of Me, but I think what I speak today at this session, I would like to continue into the workshop. I'm going to call it workshop. It may not be much of a workshop because of the size of the attendance, but we'll see how Swami guides us through that. A very powerful message that Baba gave all of us. Because I'm sure many of you who have come here for the first time or were just curious as to what is the essence, if you want to sum up Swami's teachings, if you want to sum up what Baba is all about, how could you give it in one or a few words, or one paragraph, if you will? How could you sum up his entire teachings? Love, of course. But here was one that Swami gave us. He always gives us homework. To me, Swami represented the highest wisdom. The highest wisdom, the highest possible, the next evolution, if you will, as to where human consciousness can evolve. I saw that happening with Sai Baba, staying with him, living with him, watching him, listening to him. And before I come to that, let me give you a very, very brief background for those of you who don't know. I wasn't a devotee of Baba when I went to Swami. My parents weren't devotees. We were all raised in a very orthodox, traditional South Indian family where Shiva and his son Kartikeya and his beautiful wife Parvati were the gods in our altar, and no other human beings were allowed in. And not someone looking as flashy and as fashionable with silky robes and flowing hair and flowing robes and, afro hairstyle. He didn't match with our definitions of what is a spiritual saint or a being. So he was a big no-no in my family. But then one thing led to the other. My father got transferred from the busy city of Bombay, where I was born and raised. He got transferred to a distant part in Haryana, way up in the north, where there were no colleges, residential colleges then. And I was just finishing my 12th grade, and I had to look for a college. And those days, unlike what you find today, residential schools were very, very few, far and few in between in India. It was either for the rich and famous or for the extremely intelligent, and I didn't fit into both these categories. So the family was kind of concerned about where do we send him now for college, because there was no college where my father was working, so it was a very long, very, very long commute. It would take about 4 or 5 hours every day, one way, so that was certainly not possible. So when this was going on, we heard about Baba's college in Puttaparthi, And my first reaction from my dad was, no, we don't want Sai Baba and all that. My grandmother especially was said, if you ever send this child to Sai Baba, I will not talk to anybody in the family. Because we have Murugan as our devotee, and nobody else, no Babas will come into our family. But then my father heard it was a free education. He said, I think you should give it a try. Although this sounds humorous, this is the beautiful way that Swami opened doors for everyone, even non-believers. He opened the door so they have some excuse to come and taste the divine nectar of his message and of his life. Some people said, I don't believe in all this God and all that. I just like to serve human beings. And he said, yes, service to man is service to God. Come serve to your heart's content. Somebody said, I love singing. I love the songs. And he set up the Namasmarana, the bhajans. So in every possible way, it was like the mansion of God had many doors. And all of them led to the same banquet table at the end. But each one had the choice to which door he would like to enter. My father chose the one that was free. He said, go through that door. And with a lot of trepidation, I did come into Swami's fold. I've said this over and over again many times. I might repeat, go back and forth in the course of this presentation. But the point was, I was up to neck with gods and rituals and traditional worship. It's an irony that I do a lot of that now, but with complete knowledge of the symbolism, the energy behind it, and the understanding. But back then, nobody explained to me. They said, this is how we were told, this is how you should do it. Don't ask questions. Asking questions was a blasphemy in my generation. And therefore, I didn't want any more talk about pujas and gods and worships. And the one thing that attracted me to Swami at the very first instant was the language he spoke. There is only one religion, he said, the religion of love. I said, that's something I believe. Service to man is service to God. So things like which I could relate to. He spoke in a language which I could relate to as a youngster. And that attracted me to Swami. I attended the summer course in 1979 in Vrindavan because my father said, first live a month, see how it works for you, and then we'll take a final call. And so the summer course, I loved the summer course simply because we saw a lot of Sai Baba. He was walking. One thing that impressed me was he wasn't sitting on though the pictures show you that he's always sitting up on a throne and apparently unreachable, he was completely, on the contrary, very reachable. I mean, he would walk past us, and I would see everybody touching his feet, and I also, of course, grabbed and touched his feet, but it was not from my heart. I just did it just to be part of what everybody else is doing. But what impressed me was his ease of availability. He was available for you to pass a letter to him or to kneel down and ask a question. And his discourses during that whole month of summer was very down to earth, simple. It was all about love. It was about truth. It was about righteousness, peace, nonviolence. It was about basic core human values. It was about believing in yourself. It was about self-confidence and self-satisfaction and things which empowered us. And I said, oh my gosh, why didn't I come across such teachings before? And so I was very intrigued. I wanted to know more. And as I stayed that 1 month in Bangalore, I began to ask people more about Sai Baba because something deeply attracted me towards him. Now, after almost 40 years or more, I know that this was a much greater call. But at that point, I was just thinking it was just happening. I wasn't mature enough to sit and analyze, or I'm glad I didn't analyze it. I just went with the flow. And when I spoke to people and asked them, who is Sai Baba? What is your experience? Why are you here? What are you doing? And most of them had stories which were incredible to believe. Somebody's father got rescued from a near-death incident. Somebody was cured of cancer. Swami materialized something for somebody. And lo and behold, I was listening to stories which I'd read about it, of stories that belong to 500 years ago, of saints and sages in the South India, of Nayanars and Alvars and devotees of Shiva and stories of Krishna and Rama. And suddenly all this comes alive. And I'm like, this is no way this can be true. There is no way, because even if, like I said yesterday, even an iota of this is true, my life would be changed. And what am I doing anywhere else but I should be here? So it intrigued me. I wanted to know more about Sai Baba. And so I wrote to my father saying, I definitely want to be in this college. Of course, it was far, far away from my parents, so I was really happy. The second reason why I was really happy was my father would wake me up at 4 o'clock, and in Bangalore, in the hostel, we were woken up at 5 o'clock, so it was 1 hour of extra sleep. I said, yes. So it was exciting. And then when the summer course ended and I went to Puttaparthi, being brought up in a hustle bustle of a city life, even those days, Bombay City was Bombay City, pretty much like New York, I would think. Busy, fast-paced life, buildings all around. You rarely get to see nature. And suddenly you come to Puttaparthi and you see the riverbed, and it didn't have so many buildings as it is now. But it was so beautiful, the mountains, the village, the atmosphere of the village was so charming, so enchanting, literally. I said, oh my gosh, this is where I really want to be. And Swami had his game. He played a leela with me. I went and met the principal. I said, I believe the college is starting. Tell me what's the procedure. He said, nothing, just fill an application form and give me your grade sheet and I'll give you. What do you want to join? I said, I want to join BCom, Bachelor's in Commerce. He said, okay, make sure your grade cards are A+, A or A+, something like that, he said. Because those days it was in percentages, 60% and above and 80% and above. And those of you in my generation from India, you would know what I'm talking about. But he said, if it's A+, you can definitely come and join your commerce if you wanted to graduate. But otherwise, you got to be, A is commerce and A+ is science. Anything less than that, you will have to take history or arts or something like that. My father had clearly told me, if you are doing graduation, you have to do commerce. Because he was an accountant, he decided I'm going to be an accountant too. When I was in my 5th grade, they decided because of my grades, bad grades in math, the whole family decided he's not good in math. He's not good in science. Science is not going to work for him. So it was drilled into my head that science is not going to be good for me. Even now, when I look at numbers, I'm a little scared inside because that's been fed into my subconscious. And so the path was very clearly defined by my dad, what I should do. That's how we were brought up, in case you find it very weird. I think the children these days will say, really, what? But that's how it was. And so when my grade sheet came and my father had mailed it to me, I was not A+, I was not A, I was not B, I was C something. And I looked at it and stared at it, and I'm like, how do I now get into this place which I'm falling in love with already? It so happened that my father had also sent me a return ticket along with a grade sheet and a very powerful letter. I could feel the heat of his anger in that letter. He says, you are going to come back and we're going to decide what to do. And so I didn't want to go back. I wanted to stay there. This is where, as a 17-year-old, I was looking at Baba and thinking, do I pray to him? How do I pray? I mean, if I'm praying, how will he know? He's just walking up and down. How will he know? Do I give a letter to him? What do I do? It didn't come from me that I have to pray, but I was desperate. The college had already started. It was 3 or 4 days into the college. I saw boys coming in and going, and I kept going back to this principal saying, please, please, do something. Give me the admission. He started avoiding me. So even the big amounts of vibhuti I put to impress him didn't work. Nothing worked. At the last moment, I decided I have to go back because there was no way out. I didn't know any VIPs there. I didn't know anyone there. The only person I knew, if at all, was Swami. But I was so angry with him that I wrote a letter saying, this is what people have told about you is crazy stories. I don't believe in them. And I don't even remember now. It's very vague. But I was so angry with Swami. I wrote him that this is, what, I am a young boy. I wanted to do this. I wanted to learn. I got interested in what you spoke. But then this is what is happening. I have to go back. I come from Bombay. So I had seen a lot of Amitabh Bachchan movies. So anger was the first thing with me. And Mars is very powerful in my horoscope. So I'm a very angry, I could be an angry person. So I was angry with Swami. So I said, I have to give this letter to him, look into his eyes, and tell him what convey to him what I think. I'm not going to, walk away from the ashram like a loser. I want to fight, tell him, this is what I think of you. I'm going. So I sat right in front on the final day when I decided to leave, because those days there were no tokens and there were no line system. If you're early, you just go and sit there. So I went a couple of hours early before the darshan. At 2:30 in the afternoon, I sat right in the front, where I knew Baba would have to pass because the ladies' side ends and the gents' side starts. I was right there. And I saw Swami coming. Of course, I was so angry. I had this envelope in my pocket. I removed it and kept it in my hand, ready to give it to him. There was a complete silence here. There was no prayer asking. I didn't know how to pray also at that moment. I had just given up hopes. As he passed by, to my amazement, because I thought he's just going to pick up the letter and walk away, and I'm just going to go home. I was already thinking of which bullock cart to take back to Dharmavaram station or Kottachuru or wherever that was those days. And so, as I'm looking, suddenly Swami looks at me, and the very first words he spoke to me was, "Kya hai? Kya hai?" Hindi. What is it? He said. And I was so taken aback that he spoke to me. I jumped up on my knees, and I looked at him, and I said, "Baba, admission, admission." And then, of course, I tell the story so many times that I follow up exactly the same format. I heard my father's voice saying, "Say commas. Make sure you..." Because this was my only chance. I'm just like one kid standing in front of somebody like a Santa Claus asking, "What do you want?" I tell you everything that you want. So I'm saying, "Swami, admission, admission, BCom, BCom." BCom is like an abbreviation for bachelors and commas. So I said, "Swami, BCom, BCom." And then he said, "BCom? BCom, BCom." Maybe that was his initiation into yoga. I don't know, BCom. Maybe he saw the Mars in me and he wanted to calm me down. There are powerful lessons. Every conversation in Swami, every word he utters has a deeper meaning. I think anytime you want him to come to you, first be calm. Don't get aggravated. Don't get dramatic. Don't get hysterical. All that doesn't work. Be calm. And we'll talk about it when we speak about prayer tomorrow, the lessons that I learned, how every prayer can actually work. And so anyway, he said, "Be calm, be calm." I was too excited to be calm, but I'm like, oh my gosh, he's actually spoke to me. He said something. He didn't say no, which is what I was hearing every day from the principal. He didn't say no. He didn't say, no, go back. He said, "Be calm." I sat down. He had held my envelope with his fingers like this, meaning to take it, but he didn't take the envelope. And later on, I realized in the envelope I'd written, "The moment I give this letter to you, your connection and my connection is gone, whatever is it," and all that stuff. So he decided, should I cut his connection? No, I'll give him a chance. So after that, as soon as I sat down, he looked at the principal, and he did something like this, I vaguely remember. Because just across the sands was the principal and a few boys who had already got admitted. There were about 50, 60 boys then. The college just started, the classes were beginning. And so, and as soon as Swami finished darshan, I got up and I looked straight to the principal. I ran up to him, and he was smiling. And I said, "Did you see Baba spoke to me?" He said, "Yes, yes." And I asked him, "BCom, you heard that?" He said, "Don't worry, Baba has indicated to me, whatever you want, you can get admitted to." And of course, I chose bachelors and commas. I think of that every moment. And I've said this story so many times, I still get emotional because that changed my life. Why he decided to accept me, I don't know. But that's why I stand with a great sense of humility and gratitude that at that moment, if he had ignored me, I would have gone back a really angry man. I would have never believed in God, ever. I sometimes wonder and I'm sure many of us wonder, what would our lives be without the influence of a teacher like Sai Baba? What would it have been? life goes on. We get caught up in a routine, and we almost become robotic in our lifestyle. We get up in the morning. The way we take the toothpaste into our toothbrush is also almost exactly predetermined and defined, which side of the bed we sleep on, how exactly the pillow should be. And if you see the pillows were different here, some of us say, oh my gosh, I miss my pillow at home. So we become so predictable, so conformed to our routine and habits. And then before we realize, one day passes into 1 week, and we go to work or come back from work, or we go to college, come back from college, or whatever it is that we do, we choose our careers almost out of some compulsion, almost as if it has to be done. Oh, I have to get a job. Oh, I have to get married. Oh my gosh, I have to have kids. Or maybe I have to buy a car. Maybe I have to have a house. I don't know. Somehow we feel there is a pressure, whether it's a peer pressure at childhood or peer pressure at work. I don't know what it is. We just feel pressure to follow a particular path without even wondering, is this the path I really want? You know, I was taking the flight here, and this has happened more than once. And the security post, there are only two gates in Cleveland. Cleveland is probably a portion of what LAX airport is. So in the security line C was a long, long line. And then security line B, there was nobody. So as I walked, my tendency was, oh, everybody is there. So I just blindly walked. And one person said, you could use that gate, sir. I looked and said, but nobody is there. He said, exactly, sir. That's open too. And then as I walked to the gate, I said, look at this. We just blindly follow anyone without knowing, hey, my God, this is empty. I can just walk past my sick. I asked him, why isn't anyone else coming? He just shook his head. He's probably having fun. Yeah, go ahead. But he was kind to me. But isn't that what we do? Most of us do in life. I mean, we just do things because everybody else is doing. We just do it. And then when there are big ups and big downs and big red flags shown in our lives by way of either illness or separation or loss of some kind, and then we wake up. There's a waking moment. And then we say, what is going on? Where is God? What is the meaning of all this? And so sometimes those phases of suffering or trouble is actually a wake-up call. It's actually a blessing, because otherwise we would just be like these zombies just passing. And Vedanta, the Sanathana Dharma, the teachings of Sai, tells us that this doesn't go just in one lifetime. You go lifetimes after lifetimes after lifetimes. You do the same thing again and again and again. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. And then comes a guru like Sai Baba to awaken not one, two. You know, Baba would say, when there's a small traffic problem in the traffic signal, the little cop goes and fixes the problem. He clears the traffic. If there's a bigger accident, maybe his boss comes in and a few more people come in. But then there is real riot in the city, then the Inspector General of Police now gets up and says, all right, I have to take charge now. And he says, the time had come for me to come and take charge. And in one lifetime, and this is the essence of my talk always, in that one lifetime, he touched more than 100 million people. And you might say, yes, but then look at 7 billion people and look at 100 million people. If it is truly God, why didn't he touch all 7 billion people? I ask that question often. And one Swami beautifully said, if all the people decide to accept me as divine, if all of them come to Puttaparthi, where will you be? Would you have a chance to talk to me? I have chosen a few of you all so that you will in turn become change agents for the rest of the world. So if there are 300 here instead of 5,000, we are grateful that it's only 300. If this was 5,000, it would have been such a huge event. It would have been a Sai Woodstock or something, I think. I don't know. Where there's bhajans and everybody dancing. It would be out of control. Every plant has a small beginning. Even Baba would say, even the Ganges River has a very tiny opening at the very source. It's very tiny. It's just a few feet wide. But then it becomes the holiest and the most sought-after river, a grand river that finally merges into the ocean. The beginnings are small. So 100 million, though it seems small in compared to the world population, he's touched every one of our lives. Because in some way, the fact that we are here, the fact that we have heard of Sai Baba, the fact that We believe in the values he stood for, even if we don't believe him. It really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter if you're not able to, in our hearts, to accept him as avatar or God or your own Sadguru. It doesn't matter. He says, I have not, and I said this yesterday, I have no plans, he said in his mission statement, if you will. I have no plan to collect followers into my fold or any fold. I have only come to tell you of this unitary faith, this spiritual principle, this path of love, duty to love, the obligation to love. And so it doesn't matter. But the fact that we are thinking of human values, the fact that we are thinking there must be something more in life, the fact that we are looking to what is the meaning of God, where do we go and search for this higher principle? How do I use that to sanctify my life? How do I use that principle to live life to the fullest? The very fact that you and I are thinking is because of his influence. And that is the power of his life. So in November 23rd, 1983, Baba gave this very powerful message. And this is why I said I'm going to sum up Swami's message in his own words. Most of you know this. He said, I'm going to give you a gift today on this birthday. That's a very beautiful discourse, a short discourse, powerful, a very Vedantic doctrine. He said, this is the gift for you, and chant it every day, contemplate on it every day. And what was that? He said, I am God, I am God, I am not different from God. He was not talking about himself, he's saying us to say that. This is the essence of Baba's teaching. That he has come to awaken the divinity within you, to tell you that, hey, listen, this God you're searching for is you, your higher self. Within you lies the treasure. I am God, I am God, I am not different from God. I am Akhanda Para Brahman, the indivisible, absolute, indivisible, absolute. I am Sat Chit Ananda, truth, consciousness, divine bliss. Grief and anxiety cannot affect me. Grief and anxiety cannot affect me. I am ever content. Fear cannot enter me. I am God. I am God. I am not different from God. I know this sounds way too abstract. Like, yeah, okay, great, sounds great, but I have bills to pay, I have a job to catch on Tuesday. What is this I am God going to help me with? But this is the beauty of Vedanta. The essence was that when you realize your true self, you will become all the more successful in every endeavor that you will engage in. Whether you are a parent, whether you are a teacher, whether you are a team player, whether you're a CEO of a business, or a teacher of spirituality, or anything you want, you could be the most successful because you will come from that standpoint of view. Your thoughts, your words, and actions will not come from the source of fear and insecurity, but it will come from the standpoint of abundance. You will look, your perception will change. Before I come back to this again, and I will tell you how I have made this a practical value in my life, how I practice it every day. I want to share that with you, and I hope you can take some of that home. But before I come to that, this thought comes to me. So two of us were sitting at Baba's feet, and Baba was telling us, if blood flows from my hand, if I say stop, go back, it will go back. And when he tells like this, he'll raise his eyebrows and he'll become like a 5-year-old. It will go back. And we were mentally thinking, duh, of course. You wave your hand and create stuff, of course your blood will go back. You didn't tell that, of course. We just looked at him. He probably got that message from our eyes. He said, what? You can also do it. We didn't believe that 1 second. And then this boy next to me said, Swami, but you are God. You can do it. We are just human beings. He said, what is the difference between you and me? You tell me. Cheppu. Neeku naki enta emi difference ikkada? What is the difference between you and me? You have 2 hands? Look at me. I have 2 hands. You have 2 legs? I have also two legs. You have eyes, I have eyes. You speak, I speak. You sing, I sing. And Swami went on like this, and he was laughing as he said this. What is the difference? And then Swami said, of course we kept quiet, and he said, the difference, chupalondi, is here. The difference is here. And if some of you are wondering what, that's exactly what we were wondering. What is this? I mean, should we get better eyesight, or what is this? Here. Chupa means perception. The difference is in how we perceive things. And then he added the most beautiful statement I never will forget. He said, for you, you see yourself as a small speck in this whole universe. Kada? He said, right? Yes, of course, it makes perfect logical sense. Right? We are a small speck. This universe is so huge. He says, I see the universe as a small speck in me. That is the only difference. Change your perception, you will also be God. So being divine and not being divine is merely a matter of perception. But how do you change that perception? The solution is very easy. How do you change that perception? How do you go from me being a small speck in this universe to this whole universe is a speck within me? And the answers lie in Vedanta, in understanding the Upanishads. Because once you understand that this universe is a speck within me, and I am a co-creator of my reality, and I am in charge of my destiny, then you feel so empowered, not proud, but humble, knowing that when everyone else is the same intelligence that flows in you. And in that humility, in that brings you confidence and everything else that follows. And from that standpoint, that this whole universe is within me, I experience abundance, I experience fearlessness, grief and anxiety can never affect me. I am ever content, I have nothing to lose. Where will it go? It's all is in me. And therefore, I act. So like I said, that perception which Baba gave us was where he wanted us to be, where he wants us to be. If we, and this is not wrong by any means, we love putting him up in an altar, we love decorating his altar, we love singing songs, we love looking up to him, that is all wonderful. But we also have to realize that he is not out there, he is here. And he has come in a human form. All these masters, whether it is Jesus Christ, whether it is Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, whether it is Krishna, Rama, or Sai, they come in a human form to tell you, look, I am going to be like you, and let's see how to live a life. I will live like you and prove to you what I can do. And this is where Baba's life becomes so powerful and so meaningful for every one of us, no matter how young we are, how old we are, what stage of life we are in at this point. It really doesn't matter. And I hope I can share that through this lesson of I am God. The I am God, I break it as an acronym. I-A-M-G-O-D. And I ask myself, how do I practice this in my thought, in my word, in my deed? And I look up to him, I learn from him, and I practice, and I want to share that with you. So let's take the first letter, I. The I in my thought. What kind of thoughts I can encourage? What kind of thoughts do I indulge in? With the I, inspirational. I know they said silence the phone, but don't put off the phone. If you want to take down these points, do take it down. But it's also being recorded if you want to refer to it later. Otherwise, let it just sink into your mind and think about this. I, the thought, in thought, the I can manifest itself as inspirational thoughts. How many of us, on a daily basis, engage in inspiring thoughts? We have thoughts. They just come and go, at one after the other, in almost a continuous succession. Inspirational thoughts. I'm sure many of us do. But for me, as a youngster, when I watched Swami, and for those of you who don't know, in the very first interview, you asked me, what do you want? I said, I want to be in your room. And he said, come from tomorrow. I was so happy, I hugged him. He said, oh, you're spoiling my hair. Don't hug me, and pushed me away. But my curiosity was, I was curious first. What does Swami do? What does he do in his room? How much does he eat? What kind of bed he sleeps on? Because here people say he's not sleeping, he's levitating in the night, and all kinds of stories. And I was like, nah, I have to see this myself. I'm not going to believe any of this. Does he have a TV in his room? What does he do there? And so it was curiosity. Like I said yesterday, it was genuine curiosity. It was not it was not audacity. It was not like, yeah, let me see, otherwise I'm not going. Not like that. It was genuine. I really want him. I like his teachings. I like where he stands for, but I need to know for sure that this is my guru. And of course, it was very beautiful in that interview. I don't know if I've shared this before, but when that was 1.5 years after I joined Swami's college. It didn't happen overnight. There was a lot of going on within for me. I saw Swami talking to students. I saw him materializing things at a distance. And even though I was close, I never got so close to his hand to see how he materializes. So that thing was always a big question. How does one wave a hand and just create something out of nothing? I have to see this from close quarters. But then everybody else is devotees. I can't ask such questions to be the black sheep. I already had a reputation for being, blatant about such things. So I was holding myself back, but all the time asking, I want to know more about Swami. I want to discover him. I want to understand him. I want to have true faith. And the reason I'm sharing this with you all today is simply because in your relationship with God, whoever he may be, or whatever form you choose him to be, in your spiritual path, you have to be, and I'm sure you'll all agree with me, I'm only echoing your thoughts, I'm sure about this. You have to be 100% true to yourself. You can come for a retreat to please, maybe the wife came to please the husband, or the child came to please the parents. You might come to a retreat here, that's fine. You can attend an event to please somebody else. You can sing a bhajan to please somebody else. But in your spiritual path, you can't do that to please somebody else. Somebody else's faith cannot be your faith. Somebody else's belief cannot be your belief. Somebody else's God cannot be your God. You have to discover him, rediscover him yourself. Even if I find the rose plant in my neighbor's house extremely beautiful, that plant is still not in my house. I have to take a small portion of that, come here and plant it and nurture it, and then the actual plant grows. It takes time. But when that grows, now this plant is mine. Looks similar, but this plant is mine. So satsangs like these, programs like these that the Sai organization offers, they are very powerful because here you share each other's faith. You compare notes. You get inspirations. But then you take that inspiration and ask, where is my God in this? Where is my connection? Where is my, what do you call that, direct call, or hot call, or whatever they call it? Where is my button which I can press and make the direct call? We need to ask that question. There has to be that period of yearning and deep desire to discover that. And I believe, beyond any doubt, that this universal intelligence that is so omnipresent and omnipotent and within all of us will answer that call, and God will come to you in some form, will answer your prayer, and will help you discover that he is the closest you can ever imagine. He is your higher self. He will not let you go till that very end. He will not do that. But you have to take that first step and make that call and establish that relationship from your heart to his heart. That heart-to-heart connection is so crucial. I believed in that. I wanted that. And therefore, when Swami asked, I said, I want to be in your room. He said, come from tomorrow. I was so thrilled. Now I can actually see Sai Baba from close. And what I watched then as a young boy blew my mind. You see Swami sitting on thrones. You see him wearing silk robes. You see him live like a king. He comes out and he drops his handkerchief and 5 people dive to pick him up. They don't even allow him to bend. He carries a few envelopes and it goes a little more. There are 5 people coming behind and say, Swami, I can carry it for you. He doesn't seem to even bat an eyelid, or he bats an eyelid and everybody is ready to do whatever he wants. And I thought if it's outside like this, then I was expecting royalty inside. But then I entered, it was empty, tiny, tiny rooms. I never get tired of telling that because it is so important all of us to know. And in spite of that, he did what he did. And that's the essence of it. So the first thing, what I noticed was the simplicity of his life. Extremely simple inside. One single chair, not a recliner, one straight back sofa. In that hot summer months, Puttaparthi is generally hot throughout the year, right? If somebody from Puttaparthi would come to this weather, they would wear gloves and earbuds and everything, because it's hot generally. In that summer month, sitting in that little cramped sofa, which is straight handles on either side, and straight back, with one ceiling fan above, two 60-watt bulbs across the room that lit up the room, tungsten bulbs, no tube lights. That was it. That was his living room upstairs. I looked around for TV. Of course, there was no TV. There was not even a painting on the wall for inspiration, for beautifying. Would you like your house to be just plain walls? No, none of us. We like to decorate it. We like to have curtains. We like to have... They had no curtains. He had 4 wooden panels because the window was divided into 4 panels. They were all wooden panels. 3 of them were closed. One was open. It had a thick mosquito net screen on it, so barely allowing any light to come in. So the light inside was on throughout the day, because otherwise it would be very dark. Stone walls, mind you. And incidentally, Swami said, this mandir is built by stone. The Ishwaramba High School is built by stone. These two will last more than 1,000 years. This will be the hallmark of my mission. Whether others remain or not, these two will always remain. So there was a purpose why he did that. So, but then somebody living in that. And what is the size of the room? It is 10 feet by 12 feet. Maybe one of this basketball court size is this small section of the basketball court, something like that. Very, very tiny room. And then there is another, even more tinier room, which is full of boxes. It was more like a storage place, and he made room for himself to stay. Every devotees would send him clothes and things that would donate, right from shoes to musical instruments to harmoniums for students, or whatever it is they sent, he would keep it in his room. He would say, no, devotees have sent, very proudly, as if like a father would. I didn't know all this at that time. I'm thinking about it now. Like as a father would say, oh, this is sent by my daughter or my son. And he would keep it proudly, displaying it in one corner, and won't allow anyone else to touch. Swami was like that, very passionate about anybody sending something. He'll make sure it's very safe. No, keep it there. I'll tell you when to take it out. Keep it. It all has to go under his supervision, literally physical supervision. It has to stay there for a few days, and then he will say, okay, now you can put it away. But he'll want it to be there, whether it's old clothes, whether it's perfumes, whether it's handkerchiefs, whether these are robes, whatever people thought they could send to Baba, he would keep it in his room. So most of his room inside was storage boxes. And then he had a small bedroom, which was really, really small, even more darker. And for me, the first thing was, oh my gosh, this is how he lives here? And they said he's lived here from 1950s and 40s, and he lived there till 1994. And he moved to a bigger place, quote-unquote comfortable place, only after he broke his hip. So he never really enjoyed the luxuries of walking into a huge mansion that he could call his. He couldn't go out for a breath of fresh air because devotees would come. So in his own house, he lived like, oh, no, close this window. Devotees are watching from there. Let it be. There'll be indiscipline in the ashram. So he was living a very intense life. But in spite of that, what impressed me after a couple of weeks was, how does he do this? How does he still get inspirational thoughts? And that's why I say inspirational thoughts. It's easy for us to get inspirational thoughts when we have all the good things in life that God has blessed us with. But he proved that I don't need any of that to get inspirational thoughts. I don't need soft music in my house to get inspirational thoughts. I don't need fancy paintings to look and say, I'm inspired to give a speech on environment today, or something like that. He didn't have fancy clothes. He would open his wardrobe and say, what color do I wear? Orange. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, darker orange today. Okay. Oh, maybe red. That's all his clothes. His steel almirah, he would open it. It's just orange, dark orange, red, orange, maybe a yellow. And the whites are, of course, preserved separately for only occasions. But that's his wardrobe. How does one live like this in and out? He would get up in the morning, use his hair dryer in the dark, even much before Suprabhadam is chanted and the Omkaram is chanted. He's up early in the morning because he wants to make sure his hair is dry and he's ready for darshan at 6 o'clock. Those days, by 6:15, he was out giving darshan. Inspirational thoughts is such a powerful thing. And his inspirations are always to give somebody. What do I give today? That was, I think that's what motivated him every morning. What do we give? And everything that it was, what do we give today? You know? So, the I am God, to me, I ask myself, whenever I catch myself off guard, I ask, is this thought inspirational? If not, ignore it. Inspiring thoughts. As you engage in inspirational thought after inspirational thought, those thoughts begin to transform you. They eventually create your reality. Then you are led only from one satsang to other satsang. Honestly, if I look back at my life, and Maya is my wife. This is not the illusion Maya I'm talking about. Because somebody asked me, who cooks food in your house? I said, Maya cooks. And they're like, oh my gosh. I said, no, Maya is my wife's name. She says, oh, okay. So I want to make sure she's a human being like you and me. A very sweet person. So Maya and I often talk about this. What is that inspirational thought? The more we engage in, the more you're getting occasions, and the more occasions come to you to engage in it. So I speak in one satsang, somebody calls me to another satsang, and then I find myself just going one satsang after another satsang, doing bhajans, speaking to people, individuals, and then now I'm engaged in only inspirational talks, inspirational thoughts, inspirational environments. That is how we can actually create that reality. We just have to allow that to happen. But if I had indulged in negative thinking, guess what would have happened? It could have been something else. I could have met with people who say, yeah, even my life is miserable. Come, let's have a drink. And then you go down the hill, and then you're meeting only people whose lives are miserable. And then before you know, you'll be in Alcoholic Anonymous or something, sitting there talking about how you're trying to overcome addiction or whatever it is. I'm just saying how constant thinking of one nature builds that reality. So inspiration. And Swami continuously engaged with that thought. Bigger visions. The word, if I as to the letter I as to in thought is inspiration, in words, it's important. Speak only things that are important. With Baba, I learned that he was very, very careful about every word he spoke. And to me, every word he spoke, even to this day, I get goosepimples when I think that every word he has spoken to me has had a meaning behind it. He never wasted a word with me. Nothing that he spoke to me or my father or my mother. Very recently, the last trip my mother was here, she said, Swami had once told that we should send you to States. I said, what? Where is this coming from? She said, I don't know. I just suddenly remembered Swami was talking to your father. After you did the Bhagawan drama and all that, Swami said, he's a very good actor. Send him to States. I don't know. And my father started laughing. Apparently, my father said, Swami, he's with you. Why? And then my mother said, Mr. Goldstein was also there and others were there. He said, take this fellow, this boy, go to States. And I am here in States now, and my mother's telling me, someday Swami has said. And this is what I mean. No word that he has uttered in my presence, in my parents' presence, has ever gone waste. There's always some connection somewhere. We don't realize it then, but 10 years later, 5 years later, 20 years later, it suddenly comes back to you, and I said, wow, this is what Swami had told long, long time ago. When I was once sitting at Swami's feet, and he said, what do you want to teach? I said, because I was just finished my PhD, and I was going to teach, and Swami, I always wanted to teach yoga. For me, it was always been my passion. Swami encouraged me by then. By the time I had finished PhD, I was teaching yoga to students and teachers there. And in fact, he was guiding me how to teach. As he was passing by, he'll say, you're going too hard, go slow, and things like that. But anyway, he asked what to teach. I said, I want to teach yoga. Huh? You want to be guru like me? And foolishly or otherwise, I said, yes, Swami. He started laughing, and Swami Karnananda was next to him. Swami Karnananda is a tall yogi who lived up to a very ripe old age, But he would always sit erect in front of Swami, and Swami was very proud to have him next to him. Swami would always introduce, look at this old man, look how straight he's sitting. Look how you boys, all of you all are eating and sleeping and not sit like him, be like him. And so he was kind of our role model, but he never spoke to us as such, because he was always with Swami, pressing his feet, and he had a wonderful relation with Swami. But at that afternoon, it was just him, Swami, and me. And so Swami told him, look at him, he wants to wear a dress like us. Kavi veskunnaranta video. And Swami looked at me and very jokingly. And this is like almost, these are conversations which I think of it now and I'm pausing to tell you this, but these things happen so fast that you don't think these are special statements that he makes. It's just conversations, you just say, oh, okay, and you laugh it off and go away. And Swami said, Pichoda, crazy fellow, if you're 50 years old and you're practicing yoga, that time you teach, people will listen to you. Now if you go out and teach, people will not listen to you. And then he said, oh, Guru, you want to become Guru. You know what will happen to Guru? Either they will worship you or they will stone you. They will not follow you, he said. These are the very words he said. Be a friend, he said, be a friend. Because I've always had this desire, and I have to admit, I'm guilty of it, that I still have the desire of being a monk. It's always been, I'm halfway there. I shaved my head at least. But anyway, he said, if you are a guru, they will either worship you or they will stone you. They will not follow you. Be a friend. Be a friend. But then that other thing that he just mentioned as a passing remark, when you're 50, if you're listening, and when Swami passed away, that year was my 50th birthday. And a very powerful dream occurred where he said, can you speak for me? Can you talk for me? I cannot do that anymore. And that's when I made this call. I spoke to Maya, and I said, I've always wanted to do this. I think I have to take this leap of faith and just do it. We're not there in any so-called financial way, ready for it or anything like that. But then I had to do it because it was Swami's call. But it still took me 6-7 months to process that information and to take a decision. But by the time I took the decision, it happened, and then I realized, oh my gosh, Swami had told this very thing many, many years ago. Because when I came out of Puttaparthi, I did try to start a yoga institute. It didn't work out at all. It was very nice, it went off well, but it wasn't, my friend was not sharing my values. I had to walk away from it, very hurt and blah, blah, blah. It didn't work out. And I said, why Swami is not encouraging me? This is what I really want to do. It didn't manifest at that point. But then, 50 years later, when the time was right, things fell in place. So every word he spoke is, and always will be important. So how do we incorporate that? How many times we just speak for speaking's sake? I mean, we just speak. I think it's sometimes encouraged, maybe it's considered a talent to keep somebody in conversation. We don't perhaps have to. In the spiritual path, words matter. Like a great author, and I forget his name now, he said there are 3 things you have to watch out. Watch out for the words that come out of your mouth. And what is the story you're telling to yourself and to other people? Watch out, because that creates your reality. And if you look back to Swami, he says one of the greatest evils that you can practice is criticizing somebody or speaking ill of somebody. Because then that somebody is only an extension of your own consciousness. If you're on the one path going to spirituality and wanting to experience the unified state of consciousness where there is one God present in everyone, but on the other hand, you're going to be practicing where you practice speaking ill of somebody, or in that words bring out division rather than unity. We see that in leaders today. We see that in people today, that instead of uniting, using my position as a parent, as a teacher, as a leader, to unite, I divide by my words. How much more down can we go? So, important words. So if your thoughts are inspirational, if your words are industrious, important, then your actions are industrious. Actions are industrious. For me, industrious means enthusiastic, full of energy. Do something, given your full 100% to it. Don't do it half-heartedly. And with Swami, I saw that every day. Every darshan for him was important. Every devotee he spoke to, he looked into his eyes and spoke to, was important. Every boy was important. Everybody was important to Swami. Every little thing he did was so important. I've shared this story before. But this was when a day before our convocation, November 22nd, many, many years later, Swami had come to watch the rehearsal of a drama that we were planning. And the next day is going to be the convocation, there's presidents and all. By this time, the huge crowds were coming now. We're talking in 1889, 19, I think this was 1990 when this happened. So Swami came and he saw the rehearsal, the last final rehearsal, and he was walking out. So I went and stood by this car just before he shuts his door, because in case he had some last-minute instructions, he could tell me. And so I stood by the door. As he entered the car, as he was entering his car, he noticed a small hole in my shirt, and he poked his finger and said, "Chi, what is this?" And he just smiled. I just analyzed or interpreted that as Swami is happy with me and happy with the drama, so he's not upset about anything, and we are good to go for tomorrow, because my mind is all in that. So he just said, "Hey, chi, yentidi," and he sat in the car, smiled, and went off in the car. Next day's convocation, the president has arrived and all that. So and this was such a small, trivial incident for me, especially that tone part of it. I mean, the fact that Swami is smiling and all was nice. For me, like I said, I interpreted that as Swami is okay with the drama, he's happy, he didn't avoid me, or he didn't say, no, go do that, or something like that. So the next morning at 7 o'clock, there is a president sitting outside. There is all these VIPs sitting on this is November 22nd, just the day before the World Conference, or perhaps the World Conference is on and whatever. At that point, he's coming out of the door. I was way back in the bhajan because we had late night practice. I was a little late for darshan. I was sitting way back, not in the front. And then I hear boys looking for Sunder. And apparently, Baba came out. And he came into the bhajan hall, because as he steps out of his room, there is a bhajan hall where we sit for bhajans. And we would always sit there. And so he stepped in and asked, "Where is Iyer?" And so boys started looking back. And in a couple of seconds or so, I got to know Swami is asking for me. So I got up and went towards Swami. And I thought he's going to instruct me something about the drama. But Swami, as soon as he looked at me from a distance, because he was busy, the VIPs are waiting, he has just stepped in, "Where is Iyer?" He's asking. He looked, Swami coming. He had a big brown envelope in his hand. He flung that envelope onto me, and he said, "There is a shirt piece there, stitch a shirt." And he walked out to meet his VIPs. Now, who was I to, when at first I felt so sheepish, I looked at it and I couldn't believe what Swami was saying. And I saw the shirt piece. Then it struck me, oh my God, this is because he saw that hole in that shirt. That stayed with him. And so, having been in Swami's room earlier, I know what he would have done. He would have gone, picked up a shirt piece, because there's nobody there helping him. He has to do it all himself. He would have picked up a shirt piece and said, "Okay, I have to remember to take this down tomorrow." He didn't have a BlackBerry or a smartphone to tell him, "Remind me, shirt piece for Sunder." This is the beauty. For me, in Vedanta, for those of you who know this statement, and I'm going to throw a little bit of Sanskrit here, Anoraniyan Mahato Mahiyan. In the tiniest of the tiny, God exists. In the largest of the largest, God exists. And in this act, Swami portrayed that even in the tiniest of the tiny acts, I am there. It matters. Divinity matters. And to me, those tiny acts is what made me surrender to him, made me love him, made me devoted to him. That tiny act. Because I said, how could a normal human being with so much going on pay attention? It was not like I was shirtless. It was not like I was so poor I couldn't afford a shirt. No. It was just at that moment he saw a little speck in my shirt, a small little speck, and he decided to correct it. Once when we were sitting around Swami, and Swami was joking, because sports meet was going on, and he was, "What are the games you're going to play? What are, he would engage us in all these conversations. And he said, even I used to play games. I also used to play table tennis. And we looked at Swami, and of course we had seen pictures, and some of you might have seen some pictures. Now there are so many of the old pictures coming out on the internet. There was this Raja's palace where he would go, and I know this family. And they would say Swami would, as a youngster, would come. He would drive his own car, come there. He's looking for devotees. Come, let's have satsang. And he would say that people will get tired and sleepy. Swami would say, come, let's sing more bhajans and keep them awake for 7 hours, 8 hours, 9 hours. And the old, if you invite Mrs. Geeta Ram, I mean, you should listen to her fantastic stories, because she was a little girl, literally sitting and growing in Swami's lap. And she tells stories of these old devotees who tell Swami, it's time for your coffee now. Come on, you've not had anything now. Please go and eat. Or it's time to go and sleep now. You have spoken to devotees enough. Because he needed those kind of mothers to take care of him. Otherwise, he would have gone non-stop. So that is the kind of Swami. And so Swami told us, I used to play table tennis. And we said, oh, wow, Swami's sharing these nice stories. And I used to be very good at it, I used to hold my rope up and I used to play with it. And so we were listening to it. But then nothing goes, like I said, important words, right? So you might think this is a trivial conversation. But Swami made some important lessons for me to take home. At least this is how I listen. I go back as I write these books. I keep listening to bring back into memory. And Swami said, you can't hit too high. And he's, like a child, he's explained, you can't hit the ball too high. It'll go out of the table. You can't hit it too low. It'll go into the net. You have to be very careful at the perfect height. Because if you hit it a little high, that fellow will hit it back. He's explaining to all us how a ping pong goes. And we're like, oh, wow. Just listening to him. And he said, you know what I did? To get the right height, all is a small adjustment here. Everything else is taken care of. You see, life lo kuda ade. In life also, small adjustments takes care of big things. Here, if you go a little up, the ball goes out of the table. It goes a little down, ball goes into the net. Idu perfect ga undala. Ikkada just little adjustment, the ball will go correctly. If you take that and take the little things that we do in life, when we push that little extra dust, nobody's looking, I push it under the carpet and say, this guest is not going to pick up the carpet. It's okay. That's fine. Or push it behind the altar. Or don't worry, nobody's going to look behind the altar. That is what Swami is talking about. That little thing is actually the reflection of where you are. Not the big things, not the big speeches that you give, or the big attendance, and how beautifully you sung the bhajans, or what you did there, but the little thing that you did before and after. The little small acts is what reflects exactly who you are, where you are. That is how he made us mindful of pay attention to the little things. Do you do your bed? Do you keep your house clean? Do you keep your cupboards clean? How do you sit? How do you sleep? How do you stand? How do you speak? What do the words come from your mouth? Those little things change your lifetime. The bigger things are already taken care of if you take care of the small things. And so these are the powerful. So for me, I stands for inspiration, inspirational thoughts, important words, and industrious actions. Enthusiasm. With full commitment. You do even the smallest thing with full commitment. Whether it is just lighting a lamp at the altar, or whether it is setting the dinner table for your family, or just doing up the bed. Don't do it, oh my gosh, nobody else to do it, only I have to do it. Don't do it, just do it. Okay, this is at this moment, I'm supposed to do it, let me do it well. Let me do it well, let me do a good job. With everything that you do, if there is industriousness behind it, then you are becoming that God. You are becoming exactly like what Swami wanted you to do, because that's exactly what he did. The next letter is A. In thought, I often ask myself, apart from inspiration, are my thoughts aligned to my core values? Are they always aligned to what I truly believe? Or am I borrowing somebody else's thoughts and making it mine? Are they aligned to what I truly believe? When we choose what to dress, and we choose how our home should be, when we choose what car to buy, we often need to ask ourselves, this is what I truly believe in, or I'm just doing it because to fit into the crowd? There's a great saying, at 20, you don't care about what others think. At 40, you're always worried about what others think. At 80, you realize others were not thinking about you at all. They really don't care. But somehow we feel, oh my gosh, I have to do this, otherwise I might be a misfit. And we carry our life, we compromise everything that I believe in. I compromise just to fit in and fit in and fit in. And guess what? We never don't fit in at all. We don't fit in with ourselves. We lose our identity. And that's why I said in the morning, we alienate ourselves from our true nature. So are my thoughts aligned to my core values, my core beliefs? So that means, what are my core beliefs? And with Swami, I saw this. And I hate to say this, because I know I'm not doing justice when I say this sentence, but I don't know how else to say this. I saw that he knew, he believed that he was divine. Nothing else. It didn't matter whether I believed or somebody else believed, whether he had 5 people or 10 people. When he was alone, he was truly, truly immersed in his own divinity. There was no humanness in that sense. He was completely aligned with his thought that I am divine. I have a mission to fulfill in this lifetime. He never compromised on that. And therefore, his thoughts came from that alignment with his core values. His core value was, I am divine, I have a mission. He declared that when he was 13 years old or 14 years old. And he stuck to it. No matter what the criticisms or the oppositions or whatever it was, whether people accepted him or not, it didn't matter. Swami never compromised on who he was. People said, if 10 people believed he could wave his hand and materialize something, there were 10,000 people who said that's a fake thing. And he would have said, if 10,000 are people, maybe I should stop doing this. Maybe I should focus more on my teachings and materialization. That didn't stop him. Because that was his nature. He said, this is a product of love. And if I get a chance, I will tell you how he gave this ring, simply because to explain the point that it was a product of love, not as show of what he's capable of. So anyway, talking about materialization, I have to finish that unfinished story. I wanted to see Swami's materialization from close quarters. So in the first interview after that 1.5 years when he spoke to me, and I said, I want to be in your room, he said, okay. And then I come out to the outside room. He is finishing everybody. So he's finished the interview, so he's giving vibhuti packets to everyone. He comes to me. He gives me vibhuti packets, which he asked me to send to my sister. That's a whole different story. Then he told everybody else, this boy, Doubting Thomas, very proudly. I was feeling so embarrassed. I said, my gosh, I just thought I had a great opportunity, a chance with Swami, and what is he doing? Doubting Thomas. All boys, monkey mind. And he went and kept the bag back on the windowsill, and he walked straight up to me, Doubting Thomas. And he rolled up his sleeve. And I'm just sitting down, looking up to him, not wondering what's happening. He waved his hand right above my eyes. He said, how much clothes you want? Here, take it. In front of my eyes, slowly he waved his hand. I saw nothing. I went like this, and then he closed his hand. And then he opened, there was a beautiful silver locket. And he said, keep this for you. And he made a beautiful statement. He said, I am your Sarathi, or Sanathana Sarathi from today. I am your charioteer. I will be your charioteer. So at that moment, it's not about, look what I can do. It's about, this is what you want. At this moment, I'll give it to you. I needed those. For my building blocks of faith, I needed that for clear. And that was not the first time. After that, I have seen so many, many materializations. Once we were all sitting with boys, music boys, and Swami asked one boy, y'all all came from college straight? Didn't you go to the hostel? Didn't you have anything to eat? We said, no, Swami. We had practice, so we finished that, and you called us, so we rushed. Oh, you not had anything. He pulled the robe. He said, show your hand. One boy sitting there. Now, this boy tells a story that he had always doubted Swami's creations and Swami's materialization. So it's orchestrated at a beautiful level. But this was a show not only for that boy, but for all of us. So he said, show your hand. And this boy did like this. He said, both your hands. This boy did like this. And Swami pulled his robe. He started rubbing his palms. And there was hot laddu. Laddu is, how do you say that in English, for those of you who don't follow laddu? It's a sweet dish. It just was soaked in ghee and butter, and he's rubbing it, and it's just and it's hot. This boy is saying, Swami says, hot? Yeah, it's hot for me also. Swami filled his hand and said, give it to everybody. And Swami called him, and then from his hand he gave to all of us. He took a handkerchief, wiped it, and said, okay, good. And then he was still not happy. He went inside, got some other eatables, and served us. So it is that spontaneous love of a mother. At that moment, he has to do it, fulfill it. There is no time there for the love to be thought of and how to manifest it. It just manifests on the spot. This has been my experience, and I've seen hundreds and hundreds of Swami's materializations over those years which I stayed. And so, when I talk about this alignment with thoughts, that is where he was so aligned to who he believed he was, that he would never compromise what he believed and who he was in order to please somebody else. I tell the young boys always, you think of, today, the buzzwords are like branding, brand. You got to think of a brand. You have to think of a unique image. You need to think of a USP. And I said, look at Baba with 8th grade dropout. Look at the brand he created. when every other saint and sage were long beards, and that was the fashion. So I'm sorry, I'm just joking here. But that was the general look of yogis and saints and sages. Look at him. He just broke and created a whole different brand for himself. Did he do it consciously? No, this is how divinity works. This is how beautiful and how powerful it is. I don't care if nobody is like, this is who I am, and therefore I will do this, even though I'm the only one out of all the rest. It didn't matter to him. So we need that confidence, and that confidence comes from because he was aligned to what he believed, that divinity. So he chose to dress flashy robes. He chose to have a hairstyle which no spiritual person would dare think of. He chose to drive cars which only the richest and famous had. Not that he asked anyone. He said, my hands will never go like this. My hand will always be giving. It didn't matter to him what car he drove. I mean, in his state of consciousness, it really doesn't matter. But then for somebody else looking at Swami, they're like, my gosh, look at him. He's enjoying life. But little did they realize the intensity that went beyond that apparent so-called extravagant life that he portrayed. He didn't portray it, but it just happened. People gave him the best because he said, I don't want. People gave him the best to give. And Swami always said, when you want to give selflessly, the universe will provide the best back to you. The entire universe will come and work for you and give you. You will work from a standpoint of abundance. But when you stop and say, what is in it for me, then the universe steps back. Say, you do your work now, because you are now asking for yourself. Give. And that was Swami's message. Give. Give unconditionally, give fearlessly, give yourself to whatever task at hand. Give your best to it. And watch how, in other words, in management terms, you would say, Swami said, chase excellence, not success. Don't chase success. Chase excellence in whatever you do. Success will automatically follow. Why wouldn't it follow? If you're the best singer, if you're the best artist, you're the best painter, you're the best in what you do, why wouldn't success follow? It would naturally follow. But we stop in being excellent, and we worry about whether I'm successful or not, and I stop being excellent there. With Swami, I saw him completely focused on who he was. He never compromised on the excellence of giving. When he opened the college, he said free education. When he opened the hospital, he said free medicine. Not free medicine, normal medicine. I mean, that carried on for many years. But this huge hospital, he said, free open heart surgeries. Free. And these are things which cause, all of you know this, how expensive these are. There was no discrimination between rich and poor. Even to this day, it is decided, and you are chosen for a surgery based on how important it is for you. And how important is that surgery need to be done today, tomorrow, or can you wait a few weeks more? Can you wait a few months more? If you can, they'll say, wait a few months more. It doesn't matter whether you're the richest man sitting there or the poorest man, because the doctor who's sitting across the table is not motivated by money. He is motivated by only one value, selfless service. That is how he inspired, and that simply by being aligned. And therefore, his words were always affectionate. There was always love, even though there were moments we felt it wasn't love. Many times Swami has scolded me. In front of students, he has really called me hysteria, mad fellow, this, that, very angry. But I know now, even though I didn't feel it at that point, it is all out of affection. It's all out of affection. There was once a huge function that was going on. He was not paying attention to us. He was very, curt, quote unquote, curt with us. Do this, do that. And with everybody else, he was nice. And we were talking. I said, what is this, yeah? I mean, we're doing our best for Swami, and why is he so curt with us? Get this done, put this there. He said, maybe he's stressed out. We don't know. And that's how we interpret, because he's seeing him every day. And then it so happened one afternoon, Swami was very harsh, quote unquote, again, harsh to that boy. And so he started crying. And then Swami walked away at that point, and later on he called us. He said, when a mother is taking care of guests, she has to be strict with her children. I'm doing that because you all are mine. I can't do this with others. I'm doing this because you're mine. I want you to give your best. Don't make any mistakes. Be with me. Do your work. Meer Navaru. He said, you all are mine. So, and this applies to all of us simply because sometimes you wonder, how come this person is getting less fancy, fantastic dreams with George W. Bush and Swami? Where's Eric? How come I'm not getting that dream? Why? How come he's getting vibhuti in his house? How come I'm not getting all that? How come these people are chosen? And guess what God is telling you? You're not getting it because you're already mine. Don't worry. They need it. They need those fancy carrots. And I have the stick behind them for them for a later state. But I'm giving you the stick because you already had the carrot. And you are mine. To me, that is the lesson. That we are already his. So now we step out for work to do. We don't look back for appreciation. We just say, go, give now. It's time to give back. So then you become an instrument of Sai. So his words were always affectionate. And his actions always adherence. For me, that is a very important value that I try to practice in alignment, affection in my words, and adherence in my action. Is my actions adhere to what I believe? Is my thought, word, and deed the same? If I'm, because Swami always said, be a role model in everything you do. So if I'm 57 or 58 today, and I'm saying I'm going to be, yoga helps you in keeping you healthy, it helps you keeping yourself young, but if I'm unable to sit on the ground, if I'm saying a little bit of back problem is there, people are going to say, oh, okay, yoga surely helps him. You have to be, your actions have to adhere to what you project. You are part of that, thought, word, and deed. For us, for me, what inspired me to Swami was not his speeches. They did make a lot of impact, of course. Not merely his conversations, they had a great impact. But his lifestyle, his actions proved much, much, much more than what he spoke. When he talked of simplicity, he was living a simple life. When he talked of discipline, he was living an extremely disciplined life, almost to the point of austere life. Every morning, get up, no matter what, rain or sun, he would be up. He would sit, he would collect letters, read those letters, he would be out counseling people, always out to give. Austere living. So all that really set such a deep impact as I grew in his umbrella of spiritual growth. It made such a deep impact that I knew at that point, and I know now, my life can never be the same again. I can turn myself and go back into a 9-to-5 job, but I'll feel I'm killing myself doing that. I have to be out sharing this profound reality that all of us can live that life, have the potential to live that life, and we can be role models. If not to the whole world, we can be role models to our children, to our community, to our near and dear, and that's all it is. And they in turn will be inspired, and they in turn will be role models for them, and Swami's mission is already in progress. It doesn't matter if 50 people come for bhajans or 500 people come for a retreat. Don't go for numbers, go for the quality. With Swami, it was always the quality. So when we talk of alignment, affection, and adherence, those were the three things I always take home from the A letter. And the M letter is, are my thoughts meaningful? Do they carry meaning? Is there depth in my thoughts? So in yoga, one of the niyamas is swadhyaya. Swadhyaya means self-study. Constantly you have to study something. You take up something and think about it. Use it as a meaningful thinking. You have nothing else to think. Take up a quote of Swami, read it, and say, today let me contemplate on that quote. What did Swami mean by that? What did he mean by discipline? What does discipline mean to me today? Or whatever is in that quote, think about it. So then your thoughts become meaningful. You create a habit of engaging in meaningful thoughts. And when your thoughts are meaningful, then your words are mindful. It goes back to being important words. See, they're all aligned. Swami inspired me to come up with this concept, which I'm practicing it every day. And to me, I feel that's a very real way of living I am God. Let your words be mindful of every word that comes out of your mouth. And let your acts be meritorious. They will be. If they are aligned and they adhere, if your thoughts are meaningful, if your words are mindful, why will not your acts be meritorious? They will be meritorious. You don't have to worry about doing good deeds. Every deed that you do will be a good deed. You will be inspired to do good deed. It doesn't mean that you have a talent which is useless. No talent is useless. Ted, I don't mean to put you at a spot, but you are a great role model here because he was a news anchor for so many years. How can news anchor talent be used in God's mission? Look at him. It's Sol Jones. Use that same talent to interview people. He's putting it out there. There's so much good being filled on the internet about Sai Baba that people have no time to read any negative articles or anything else. They're just filled with these stories. And if you notice it from a critical angle, I've not seen any of those negative videos. I don't need to see it. There's some BBC video or something out there. Once I just went through it fast, and I noticed how they had these dark, shady environments created whenever they projected Swami. It was there's no such thing as objective reporting, I think. It was meant for you to go lean towards to the other side. But I look at Soldier, I'm like, even if I mute it, bright face, bright light, eyes full of tears, speaking just as purity and love and truth right there in front. How can you ignore that? That is how you can use any talent in God's mission. Any talent. So think of how you can use your talent. How can you make your acts meritorious? I am. We will explore the concept of God in the next session. I know I have 5 minutes here, but I won't go into the God. But I'm sincerely hoping that I'm making sense. I'm not being too abstract. I know if you expected me to tell stories about how divine Swami was, how like an avatar he was, how godly he was. This is how I found him godly. In his humanness, I found his divinity. In his simple way of living, he taught me how you can be divine. And for me, if I can accept him as human and worship him, then it's very easy for me, anything above that. But for me, because the concept of God, avatar, is very abstract. Even today, after thousands of years, scholars and pundits are still trying to figure out what this means. How do you even express it? Adi Shankara, one of the greatest intellectual giants India had produced 2,000 years ago, he says, how can I even worship you, O Mother? He describes the universal intelligence as Divine Mother. He says, how can I even worship you when I don't know who you are? When even Shiva and Vishnu and Brahma, even they didn't realize who you are, this ultimate cosmic principle. Who am I to even say I can worship you? So for us to claim that he is God, or to claim that he is not God, both are foolish in my opinion. Because that means you know what God is. If you show me a fruit and say, is this an apple? I would say yes or no. Why? Because I've tasted an apple. I've seen an apple. I know what an apple looks like. So if you show a banana to me, I'm going to say, no, that's not an apple. I know what an apple looks like. Come, I'll take you. I'll show an apple. Because it's been my experience. I know what it is. But to say he is God means I know what God is. I'm not there yet. And to say he is not God means the same thing. Then you know what God is, and therefore you're saying who is and who isn't. How can I do that? I mean, when a great scientist speaks, I feel, oh my gosh, who am I to claim whether his qualifications are genuine? I have no idea what he's talking about. The abstract concepts of nuclear physics and particle physics and all that, when he throws it at you, like, oh my gosh, yeah, you must be right, I'm sure. Yeah, yes. We just nod our way. Because we say we have no way to judge his qualifications unless you are also a nuclear physicist or a particle physicist at his level to compare what he's saying makes sense or not. You get my point? So it's very important. It doesn't matter. Don't worry about labels with Baba. Don't worry about putting him in a frame. Don't worry if your heart doesn't accept him as God. Swami told us many times that it is natural for your mind not to comprehend my divinity because the mind only relies on the senses for information. Faith is beyond senses. Faith comes to you by hearing or seeing. It comes to you from deeper within. Mind, it's very foreign to the mind. Mind doesn't accept it. So the mind will logically try to bring you down into a way where you can accept it. And that's why the mind will not rest till you say, oh, this is how he creates. Oh, now I get it. Okay. Because that's when the mind finds happy. It's like the squirrel that comes out or the groundhog that comes out in spring after this long hibernation, he comes out. And then the slightest sound, he goes back. Because he's created a comfort zone. He hates this new environment. I mean, he wants to be there, but he goes back quickly. It's the same thing with us. Our mind wants that taste of divinity, but it becomes so foreign, it goes back, falls back into, no, that can't be true. I'm comfortable here. This makes logical sense. So we become logical, we become practical, far, far away, removed from divinity, which is telling you, become crazy. Faith, belief, love, right action, non-violence. These are values from the heart. It's very foreign to the mind. And therefore, if we practice these values in some form, even the smallest form, like I said, Swami said, the small angle of the racket, the table tennis racket, will determine where the ball will go. A small one step that you would take in practicing that value in your daily life, he would take 1,000 steps and come to you, because that one little right action would already pave way, clear the thousands of lifetimes of obstacles that you would have created. That's why he says, take one step, and I will take 1,000 steps to come to you. My dear sisters, brothers, thank you so much for your patience, for your understanding. And I hope you feel the energy of Sai. I feel it. I feel Swami is with us, guiding us, and he will not rest till every one of us realize our own true divinity. See you after lunch. Sai Ram.